Welcome to Activate Your Full Potential with Spiritual, Holistic Coaching and Healing. Uh, Hi, this is Philip Montrose and my wonderful wife and partner, Jane Montrose. We're here to share some information I think you'll find very practical, very relevant, and perhaps quite transformational as well. Uh, and it's something that may be uh, posing an interest, a concern, maybe even an urgency to you about what's missing in your life. Ever thought about that? You may be going from the time of survival into saying, hey, I want to go further than just surviving and routines and getting through my life, uh, realizing there is much more your potential, your purpose. Or maybe you've already begun on that journey more consciously, more spiritually focused, and you want to go deeper. You want the tools, you want the knowledge, you want the support to really succeed and accelerate your evolution. In either case, whether you're just starting and wondering how to get going or you want to really go deeper, this can be challenging at times, even frustrating. We know ourselves, Jane and myself, as trainers in the holistic field for over 30 years, published many works, helped a lot of people. And this is a key area of development, this self-development potential purpose part. And we even wrote a book on it about becoming the creator of your life. And years ago, Jane and I, we reached a certain point in our quote careers, which were relatively successful in the conventional mainstream way. I was an educator, Jane, an architect. And at a certain point, you reach kind of a limit. There's sort of a shelf life on things you do when you're starting your
Shelf
life. Interesting on your purpose, there is no shelf life. There is endless depth. But at a certain point, you figure out what you're pretty good at, or you can make a living and support yourself. And hopefully it's somewhat interesting. And it was certainly an educator, and I enjoyed helping children. But at a certain point, it lost its interest, its aliveness. And I really knew at a deeper level it wasn't what I was ultimately here to do and explore, and wasn't the real place for me, but it was something of a placeholder or a step in that direction. And for Jane, as she'll explain in a few minutes, went even more where she just burnt out of her architect's position, became even chronically ill and couldn't attend work. Uh, but anyways, this topic of activating your full potential is super important when you get to that point in your life that you want to go beyond mere survival. And yes, sometimes you do have to survive something, and that's part of the journey too, we know. But what we're going to do today is share 5 keys to activating your purpose and a very powerful demonstration. So stay for the whole thing. Hopefully you can. And because some of the things at the end could be the key pieces or key parts that you need, and it will all be very practical and a lot of insights and eureka moments along the way. And we wanted to go a little more into the uh, parts of what and why, the what is the challenges, what are we here to realize, Jane?
Yeah, and you start with the problem, like what are we talking about, and why is it so important? Um, I think the problem I faced, actually, I was an architect for many years, and I was successful at it. I had a good job. I actually moved through the ranks, you could say, and became a manager, which when you think of it, you want to move through the ranks, and when you get into management, then it's actually more difficult than you would think. And architecture, while it was very interesting for me for many years, my interest waned, and I got to a point actually where I had this feeling like my soul was dying, and I didn't really know what that was, but I knew that something really big had to change. And like many people, I faced a problem, which is sensing there has to be more because this isn't working. Something
Right.
has to change. Longing, really longing to create a life that has meaning to me. Um, Wanting to just feel excited and interested really in getting up in the morning. I didn't want to get up in the morning at all, which was not a good sign about how I felt about my life. Then you wonder, well, why is it? Why is it that we don't understand if we know that there's more to life? Why is it that we don't know what it is or how to get there? And I think it actually the doors are opening much wider now, thank goodness. When we were in that position, which was really in the late 1980s, many years ago, there wasn't much out there for us. And we realize now that where we wanted to be was way outside of, you could say, the herd of humanity or our consensus reality, however you want to describe it. We aren't taught how to live purposefully as children. It's not in our educational system. It's not in professional training, or even conventional religion. What they call a life of purpose is, I think, a different thing than really we would consider to be a life of purpose, a purposeful life. And so we were lost, and we were actually very active spiritually. We had been for many years. And at that time, we also happened to be searching for a way to access our own guidance and wisdom. And we had been in an organization for many years, which is where we met, where the leader had all the wisdom and everyone else was supposed to do exactly as the leader said. And we were there, and there were actually many positive things about it too. I have to admit it. We weren't there for many years for nothing. But it did get to a point where we started wondering, well, if he has the truth, why is it that we can't have the truth? And that sent us out searching for the truth. And that actually led us then. That's where I think everything spiraled downhill. But the fact is that most people at that time weren't there. And most people still aren't there. If you ask people how to do it, or if you say you want to, many people will say, oh, no, you can't do that. It's kind of like you have to stay in the herd of humanity. So it actually is not just a difficult problem. It's a problem where a lot of people often are fighting. And I had that in my family, where I actually was, my parents pretty much rejected everything that I was doing, and they disowned me and wrote me out of their will pretty much, which is kind of crazy. Anyhow, as a result, where we started, which is where many people still start, is with a trial and error approach. Kind of, you spend a lot of time going here and there and all over the place and trying to find your way, which often ends up taking people nowhere, or progress is slow at best. Mm-hmm. And for us, fortunately, I think that we're both pretty determined people. And we also, at a certain point, we were blessed, you might say, to have spiritual teachers show up in our lives. And I guess it's one of those things, when the time is right, the teacher will come. It seemed like it took a long time, but we met these spiritual teachers, and they taught us a process for connecting with our own truth, which is in the heart, connecting with the love you hold in your heart. And everything changed. And we'll be talking more about that, because that still is the heart of the matter. And it is interesting. It's in our vernacular too. We have to get down to the heart of the matter. I feel it in my heart. This is the right way for me. So many things that we say, and if you watch people, often when something meaningful is happening, they'll put their hand on their hearts. There are so many signs, but in the meantime, people who are trying to find their way often end up confused, and progress is slow, so it's frustrating, and they become anxious, and there's a tendency, of course, then to pull back too. But if your life force is waning, which also is likely to happen at a certain point, and what happened to me, it can lead to depression and like nothing is possible. And that makes actually finding the solution more of almost a life or death experience. And that's how it was for me. I think I couldn't quite put my hands around it. I couldn't quite grasp what exactly was happening, but it's something you can feel. And I think I'd just like to do a quick little thing um, about feeling the difference. If you imagine, and you may be there now, or you might feel that you're definitely on the way, just that you're moving towards that life of fulfillment, a life that makes your heart sing and makes you feel fully alive. Aliveness is a quality of the heart too. Life energy, our life energy emerges from the energy that we hold in our hearts. So just imagine how that feels and how alive you do feel then. You could measure 1 to 10 just really quickly, and taking whatever that is. Then just imagine you give up. You figure, well, that's not ever going to happen. And people might even tell you that, well, that'll never happen. I think I was told that, or that's the most stupid thing I ever heard of. So just imagine that you give up on that. You give up on, you could say, your dream, the dream of the life that you really would like to be living. And just notice how your energy feels when you give up. I can feel my energy. My energy is kind of draining from my body. And then measure from 1 to 10 how alive you feel now. And from our experience, everyone is different, but often the experience of aliveness when you're focusing on being there, it's close to 9 or 10, 8, 9 or 10, somewhere pretty high. And then when you go to giving it up, you can end up around 1 or 2. And it is life or death. And I think that it's the time of the great awakening. We know that there's more. We're not here to settle. And we are here to claim our roles as true creators, and when you think about that, we deserve it. The creator resides within us. And I think that's something I didn't fully understand in the early years when I was connecting with my heart, but I did understand that life changed quickly. I spent 10 minutes doing that in the morning, and in a very, very short time, I felt very different about myself. I felt much better about being myself. And I wanted to get up in the morning, and I couldn't wait to do the meditations and to get more of my own truth and wisdom from them. And it continues. And now that's more than 30 years ago. And we never look back, and it still is getting better. And we're still learning more and growing more. And I think all of us, we're here for that. We're here to live fully and grow. And that's what activating our full potential is.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's why we feel it's our purpose to share the message with as many people as possible, because it changes everything.
Mm-hmm.
And with these many years of teaching it,
right.
That's what we've found. And
Mm-hmm.
there are several people here right now even who have gone through training with us, and it just is undeniable.
Mm-hmm. Yes, if you look back at your life at the end of your life, did you feel you were on the path or activating your full potential? Because it's not something you end somewhere. Your full potential
Right.
is once you reach one height, you go to the next height. As the saying goes, when you get to the top of the mountain, then you really begin to ascend.
Yeah.
So it's a
Well, and
wonderful
the thing is,
journey.
it becomes more miraculous. I mean, I like words like mystical, magical, miraculous, and it feels that way to me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and that's the nature of reality. When you get beyond all of the stuff
Mm-hmm.
that people tell you, you have to be down in the mud with them somewhere,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
being angry and frustrated and mean and nasty and whatever.
Yeah. It just depends where you are. And if you're people like us are watching this webinar, participating in it, this is very meaningful. Some people maybe just raising a family, and that's very meaningful, and that's kind of what they're here to do. Some people may raise a family and they see it in a bigger light, in a bigger picture too, and that's a different
Mm-hmm.
inner perspective that we're talking about. And so I want to go over really briefly the 5 ways to activate your full potential. the topic today, which relates to our spiritual coaching and healing program coming up. And we'll go into these in a little more in detail, but they're built into us, these 5 ways to activate your full potential. And the nice thing is you don't have to go anywhere or do something really externally to light it up, because it's within your heart, it's within your being, because you are a spiritual being having a human experience. And when you awaken to that, when the light starts to go on, you start to have a sense of, why am I here? You're here to make a difference. How am I going to make a difference? I'm going to use my talents and gifts to make a difference. I'm going to learn and grow and heal. I'm going to do all those things. Those are the big picture. And that's becoming the conscious creator, which is where we started. So that brief overview that we're going to go into on the 5 ways is lighting your spiritual flame. We'll explain that. There's a saying, as a man thinketh or a woman thinketh in his or her heart, so is he or she. And then finding an effective roadmap. We'll talk about the roadmap we use to fulfill your potential. Unleashing your unique genius. Maxwell Maltz says, within you right now is the power to do things you never dreamed possible. So a lot of things are dormant within you. And when you go on this path of activating your full potential, things light up, synchronicities happen, opportunities occur that otherwise would not, because you'd miss them. You wouldn't be alert to them. You wouldn't be awake to them. And fourth, we call it upgrade your heart and mind. For success, you need to open your heart, right? To be more here, more present, more into the potential, the impact you can make. And then, as Einstein famously said, we cannot solve problems with the same thinking we used when we create them. We need more heart thinking, heart intelligence thinking. And fifth, the 5th key to activating is keeping your spirits up and enjoying the journey, because you need to be in the right place to deal with the ups and downs inevitably that come with life, to become the creator, not be in the victim mode.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
Jane, should we go more into each of those 5 ways now? And then we'll do a demonstration on how this works in actuality here in a few minutes.
Yeah, yeah, and we'll start with the flame, which for many people actually I consider it to be like a pilot light on a stove, or there's just this little tiny light that actually is more like a holding. It's like a holding flame or a holding light that actually hasn't nothing has been activated by it, so it actually is pretty much dormant. But all of us have that spiritual flame in the heart, which is, as I mentioned earlier, it is a spark of the creator within us. And this is what, if you are thinking, well, how can we say we're geniuses? We're geniuses because the creator resides in us in our own unique way. We all are here with something uniquely special to offer. The threefold flame, it actually is an idea that exists within conventional religion too. The 3 parts are love, creative power, and divine wisdom. And those are expressed through 3 lines of development, which we'll be discussing too, because that's where we go with our training. We go into all of the lines of development, which develops all the flames. And you want all of those 3 flames to be developing together for it to function most adequately. So I have another quote related to the heart that I wanted to mention. That's from one of our books. Love is the language of the soul and bridge to our true potential. And it is, I think, to me, in the end, it all comes down to love. You can see this little loving being in my lap now. And as I said, in most people, that flame, that loving energy is just a flicker. But when we actually start to focus on it, which we did, and it's really just breathing energy into the heart, breathing energy into the love, and expanding it out, lighting up that flame. You can imagine a ball of golden light or a little flame, and just bringing more energy to it and feeling it expand out so you can fill your whole body and everything around you with love. That's just a kind of a very brief synopsis of it. But it also it is something that's relatively easy to do. It's not rocket science. It's just that it's not something that is understood within society, although that is changing. Science and spirituality are starting to come together. And I think one of the greatest sources is for understanding the heart is the Heart Math Institute,
Mm-hmm.
where they talk a lot about it. And of course, there's ageless women wisdom on the power of the heart too. A lot of things that you can find. I wanted to read a quote from. We have a book we wrote called "The Solution," and with the solution being love, and I just wanted to read this little bit about heart math. The heart plays an essential role in our health and well-being, and we have felt for many years that it is much more than just an organ, which it is. Modern science is starting to agree. Recent research at the Heart Math Institute has shown that as our hearts become clear, filling with love and gratitude, amazing things happen. Our heart rhythms shift, bringing the whole body into a new state of harmony. This reduces stress and relaxes the organs, producing positive effects that even offset the impacts of aging. And this is from scientific research from Heart Math Institute. This coherence, as it is commonly called, also engages the higher cognitive functioning of the brain and increases intuition. So that's the part about connecting with truth. Finding that it possesses a complexity that's even greater than the brain, science is even exploring the heart as a second brain. The profound nature of a heart is another place where you can see that there's so much more to life than most of us realize. Albert Einstein, of course, was obviously a wise man, said, "Few are those who see with their own eyes and feel with their own hearts." I just think that's so beautiful. And that's what we're talking about, really emphasizing in our lives the qualities of the heart and opening. And we'll be talking about how we open then from there into bringing out our unique genius, bringing out those unique spiritual gifts that we have. And of course, we relate it to our 3 courses. And Philip, were you going to show that image of
Yeah.
Which are the transformational triad, we call it, which are the 3 lines of development. So we have purpose development, how you make the difference that you make in the world, self-development, discovering your greatness, which is what is emerging from your heart, and dream development, which is about manifesting your dreams. So we bring those all together, and really the central focus is discovering your greatness within your heart. And what you end up with, voila, is enjoy life to the fullest. And I think also on a broader scale in terms of where the world is now, making the difference that you came to make. So what could be better? Certainly woke us up.
Mm-hmm. It is awakening.
Yeah. And just in such a magical way. Very different from kind of the consensus idea of life.
So in addition to that spiritual flame opening up, another way of helping you activate and fulfill your purpose is that having an effective roadmap, a structure, something that you can sense that you're on the right path rather than just haphazard, or like at first we were just wandering around, as Jane said, a lot of trial and error, but you can waste some time that way. So this is a more effective way to do it. In this 7-part roadmap that we developed and we teach through our courses, our coaching healing programs more in detail. One is setting your course. And that means you really have a moment or a time where you say, I'm going to commit to this activating my potential. It's really going to be a priority.
Right.
And you're going to take charge of your life. And second, then you're going to start to uncover your heartfelt joy. Again, this is not necessarily linear, these 7 steps, but it makes sense to describe them this way. So when you start to commit to this better life, like Jane was saying, when she was felt like her soul was dying, or I felt kind of wandering around in the classroom going through the motions, suddenly you have a reason to live, a raison d'etre. You're here and, oh, wow, I know maybe this job is okay. I'm burnt out. It's temporary, but I'm really going to, in my part-time or my hobby, or I'm transitioning to this career, this purpose, this action that's very joyful, that's uplifting. It's a journey, right? And it's following my heart. So there's going to be a lot of joy connected with it. And the third part is that connecting with your heartfelt dreams. From this, when you are feeling more joyous, dreams are going to flow from your soul, from your higher imagination, your higher mind is going to give you some dreams of a greater reality that you can start to make real. You can take this big picture with your heart and start following the steps day by day. You'll maybe have some big picture goals, which may change. You may want to start a business or a career or a big project, and that may shift over time too. But you're going in the direction that, as I was saying earlier, if I was going to end my life tomorrow, I had done everything
you don't mean end your life.
Not like a suicide. If this was my last day, let me reframe that.
Yeah.
If this was my last day, like I had fulfilled my purpose as much as I could in the time that I had. If I live another 20, 30 years, which I may well do, or 40 years, then I'll fulfill it more. But I'm in this endless path, this cycle spiral upward, feeling very good, following this dream that keeps growing and evolving. And it's a dream of a greater humanity that we're collectively having too.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And that fourth part of the, let's see, we have to mute
here. Looks like state there.
Okay. Good. And okay. the fourth part of this 7-part roadmap is clearing resistance. And some holistic people don't quite get this part. They just want to activate and do joyous, wonderful things and go into the light. But there is a lot of resistance. There's shadow, and that's part of the learning. That's part of the growing. Sometimes some of the pain and challenges of transforming it. It's essential, and to learn have tools and techniques to do that.
Right. And we really started in the early 90s. Our focus was on healing, and now I think we understand it in a much clearer way. But if you think of it, that actually most of what we are is space between the electrons in the cells in our body, and that space is filled with sludge in most people, so things are kind of not moving too well, which affects our health too. So what we're doing as we heal is we're clearing out that sludge, and as we do that, things move faster. The electrons in our cells are able to move faster, and we feel more alive. It's great. And like Philip said, you can't just imagine it not being there. You can't just say, well, I'm going to just focus on being happy. I think we do need the mental focus, but we also have to have the clearing.
And that's what we're calling this training, the activating your potential with spiritual coaching and healing. In our trainings, coaching healing trainings, we go deeper into this, like the healing with holistic EFT tapping, spiritual kinesiology, a healing from the soul techniques that we developed, hypnotherapy, NLP, and others, which are really powerful and effective. And you may know some others that work for you, but you want to have those tools and know them, because they're things that sooner or later, they're going to be challenges you want to overcome. And as you do, you actually spiritually evolve, and that's can track that as well, which we teach too.
Well, and it allows you to move with ease. Some people says, well, I can deal with it. It's kind of like, well, why deal with it? Why be trying to move through sludge when you can just be kind of flying along or flowing with the divine?
So related to that clearing resistance is step 5. We put it as a separate step because it overlaps. There's a hold of the past you want to use. You don't want it to imprison you. So old traumas from this life, we've all had traumas, 8 billion people on the planet with traumas. And we're here and we can heal them for the spiritual growth that's essential, as we said. Ancestral things in our lineage that we've inherited, past life karma, things that we take into this life that are here for us to clear if we choose to, if we want to move on and really have the best, most fulfilled life. So you let go of the past, and even in your physical environment, clutter and things that may be holding you back is part of it. And the sixth part of the map is manifestation mode, shifting into manifestation mode. We do that through different practices, visualizations, energy pattern support ways. So you're in this place where manifesting becomes part of your life. Like I'm in this very creative, becoming a creator life. And there's ways to do that that are more direct and tested that we found that are very helpful. And finally, although this is not necessarily linear, as I said, number 7 in the map is start to take inspired action. And it can be appropriate action, necessary action as well. So you have the energy, feel the fear and do it anyway, as the book said. You have a sense of where to go, and a lot of synchronicities show up. You may be watching this webinar, may be a synchronicity for you. And things happen you tend to be in the right time at the right place, and things make a lot more sense and go into a more meaningful direction. And even things that, quote, don't work out is just a way to show you that this is something that you learned that doesn't work. Now shift into this or take part of this, like we said in that Gurdjieff-Ouspensky, that school we were in earlier, Jane and I, where we met. We are using some of that material, some of that teaching today. It was very valuable, although the group became a real limitation for us after a while. We outgrew it.
Yeah, definitely did.
So that takes us to the next part of the 5 activations about unleashing your unique genius. Jane?
Right. Yeah. And of course, first we want to define what that is. And as I said before, it's your creative spirit, which is dormant in most people. And if you look at the heart, it's not an error, I don't think, or a mistake, that the heart is at the center of our being. And it is in some of the Eastern practices, it's considered the seat of the soul and the bridge to higher dimensions. It is the place where the soul connects most firmly with the body. So your soul and your higher wisdom does come through the heart, even though it has an intelligence also. And when we look at all of that, we really have to redefine what intelligence is, because most people look at IQ tests and it's like, well, that person is intelligent and that one isn't. But it's really much more than a mental thing. We are holistically, we have a body, emotions, mind, and spirit, and each of those parts of us has its own intelligence. So you could say, for instance, some people have an intelligence that is strongest within their body. Maybe like a person who does massage therapy, and they have such a sensitivity to the body. You think, well, gosh, how do they have that? That's where their unique genius lies, possibly. And some people, it's emotional. It's having emotional intelligence and being able to connect with other people emotionally. Of course, it can be mental intelligence too. There are intellectual geniuses, there are emotional geniuses, there are geniuses of all kinds. And of course, it all comes together with spiritual intelligence, of having that broader understanding of our nature and our reality that will help us to move into places that wouldn't be available to us otherwise. Because if we're stuck in a box, or you could say if we're stuck in the herd of humanity, only so much is possible. And I think an important part of the spiritual journey is jumping over the fence and going off on your own journey into the wilderness, which is where all of this is. So it's not about IQ tests. It's not really anything that conventional wisdom would teach you. It's something more that you know for yourself. And I think that's what's so beautiful about it, is no one can know what's right for you more than you do. And when it comes to spiritual teaching, I think that's one of the most important points, is that we consider ourselves spiritual teachers, but we don't feel that we know what's right for anyone. We feel that we can help people to find out what's right for them, for themselves. And that's really exciting. So from that, if you look into the heart, then there's this key aspect of it also, which is called your lessons and gifts, that we all are learning. We're here learning and growing, as I mentioned before. And it is through those challenges that we face that our gifts emerge. So for me, one of my biggest challenges in this life has been my ability to express myself. And I grew up in an alcoholic family. There was a lot of tension, and not physical. Well, there was some physical violence, not against myself, but really against my mother. But there was emotional, I could say, emotional violence and emotional turmoil, and it was very unstable. And I ended up being very quiet and afraid to say anything, because my father also was very have very strongly opinionated about things, and in ways that are very different from the way that I am, obviously. So, so it is through learning to open to my ability to express myself that I became the person I am here, and being able to share, as a teacher. And it is, for me, the most fulfilling thing ever. So there is something like that for all of us. It's interesting, because the spiritual journey, we see it outside of ourselves, but it really exists within us. The journey, the whole journey, the nature of the journey, the nature of the things that we're learning and how we're growing, it's all built right into us. And I think that that's another thing. It really is quite miraculous when you look at the bigger picture of things, and start to see how it all comes together very synchronously. And Philip was talking about how you start out on the path and you don't know where it's going to go, but somehow one step leads to the next. And, just that's how it's been for us ever since we left our first lives, you could say, as an educator and architect. We also look at a simple formula for, if you want to realize your purpose, what is it? Well, it is taking those gifts that make you feel most alive, because you're here to live fully, the ones that make you excited about getting up in the morning, and you combine those with the difference that you want to make. And I think Philip suggested earlier, it doesn't have to be any like this monumental thing, like I'm going to change the world or something. It can be a person, their purpose may be raising a family, and then there may be something after that too. You raise the family, and then you move on to your own second life. It can be a person who is a chef, and their greatest joy is to prepare food that brings delight to people, that actually has soul in it. So it can be anything. It's not, you're not just putting yourself in another box. You're actually bringing yourself out into a place where there's so much more than you could possibly imagine. And that's exciting about it too. And of course, the key is that it emerges one step at a time. I think people will come to us sometimes and they'll say, well, I want my, this plan. I want the plan, the for sure plan where nothing can go wrong and I can plan out the rest of my life. It doesn't exist, because we keep evolving. So we're kind of spiraling upward. And as we move along, more and more things are emerging, which is why it is miraculous and very mystic. I think that we one of the things that we really love to do when we talk about healing too, healing doesn't necessarily have to be difficult. There are times when it is more challenging than others, when we reach really deep into things. But there are some things that are very simple we can do that can make very positive changes. And one, we call it the reset process, which we do with EFT. And I'm just going to show it to you now, how you can do it alone. And if you do EFT tapping, you can use that too. But we use it with something we call the miracle reframe. And the reset process, which actually what it does is it coordinates the vibration of the head and the heart and integrates them. So the first part of the process is tapping across the top of your head. You want to be tapping on both sides. So you can tap with your fingers, just so you're going on both sides, or your fingers can be spread out this way. Very lightly. You're not trying to hurt yourself. It's just, I think of it more like a hummingbird kind of fluttering its wings. So you're just tapping yourself here, tapping on your head, and then tapping on your heart. And for the first part, as you tap on your head, the thing to say is, I know that anything is possible. And then in the heart, and miracles are happening now.
Miracles are happening.
So you want to do it maybe taking one full breath, or sometimes if you're doing it and you're clearing something, you can even feel a shift. So you say, anything is possible. Just taking a beautiful breath. And miracles are happening now. Another beautiful breath. I don't know about other people. Well, a lot of people report that they really love it. And I know some people, I remember one time a fellow attended one of our workshops and we taught the miracle reframe with EFT, I think. And about a year later, he sent us an email and said, I've been doing that ever since. It has completely changed my life. Just doing the miracle reframe, because it changed his whole perspective on things. Mm-hmm. And I can't do it. I can't say that a few times without smiling. It just makes me feel so happy. Anything is possible and miracles are happening now.
Yeah,
I think the dogs agree. They're
yeah. Seems to be the universal solvent, and just about everyone we've introduced it to the miracle reframe. Anything is possible and miracles are happening now. And then doing some holistic EFT tapping or that reset process seem to enjoy it. It seems to open up possibilities and synchronicities, however challenged you might be.
Yeah.
So that really is a good segue to the next part of the activating your full potential, which is that upgrade your heart mind for success. And we were doing that in that exercise a moment ago that Jane led us through. The reset process is what we call it, the tapping on the head and the heart. And part of it is overcoming the victim thinking, as it's sometimes called. And that makes a lot of sense, because as a child, we're helpless. We are in some ways victims to our parents and people who are, quote, taking care of us. And most people more or less have parents who have their own victim things, and it's perpetuated, so they can't fully take care of us. And then there's things, as we mentioned, from your ancestors coming down in your past lives, and a lot of things, quote, putting you into a program of feeling very limited and reactionary, reacting to events. And that victim thinking is something that you can overcome. We call it here upgrading your heart mind for success, by taking charge of your life, and realize that we tend to have a set point. I don't know if you've heard that phrase, a set point, where we set our point like a boomerang that keeps coming back to the same place. And so our thinking and feeling might be in the same place in some area, because
it's kind of like, it's a vibration. So we tend to have a vibration that we gravitate to.
Yeah. So you just go, I can't do anything about it. Doesn't matter to me. So what? May have some sort of negative places where you put yourself in the pits or in the trenches, and you're just, that's the way it is. And it's a routine. Right. It's a default pattern. And you can change that. You can raise that up by doing things such as we're saying, the reset process, being around holistic, like-minded souls, activating your full potential starts to change your set point. And when you dip, then you quickly rise up to a higher way of living, and your beliefs are more anything is possible and miracles are happening now, rather than it's not going to work out. The world's coming to hell in the handbasket, and those kind of phrases or ways of looking at things. And going back to the Heart Math Institute, the research, when your heart is more connected, you are more heart-centered, you are more following the prompts, the intuitions from your heart, which your mind doesn't know about at first. But when I'm getting a hit, I'm getting a sense that this is something meaningful, this is something interesting, something I want to research, something I want to do. When you follow that, the Heart Math Institute says your thinking gets better, your brain gets better, because your heart is actually communicating 9 times more to the brain than vice versa. There's a tremendous amount of input, hormones and electricity, magnetic energy coming from your heart to your brain even. So your thinking gets clearer, you become more coherent, it helps your health, as we mentioned, and you are in a better place to live your life, and you can live more from that place. And when you're off track, you say, hey, I know how to get back on track. Otherwise, you're sort of meandering, you're sort of flapping around, you're in default, you're in reaction. Your possibilities are much more limited because you're following that programming that your parents' society taught you, for better or for worse. But it's not you. You're not taking charge of your life. So that's upgrading your heart and mind. And if you want to add anything to that, Jane.
Well, I think if you recognize how beneficial it is, it's kind of like, how could you not do it? Because something that we talk about often is the effects of stress, and there's a lot of statistics out there about how detrimental stress is. It is connected with just about all major diseases. It can the results of chronic stress can be fatal, at an extreme level. And if you then look at if you're focused on the love in your heart and gratitude and all those things that are connected with that, it actually goes in the opposite direction. So vibrationally, they're at opposite ends almost of a pole. So where do you want to be? And of course, also connected with that, if you're in a stressful place, if your energy is low, if you're down in the dumps, you might say, or wallowing around in the mud, you can't make good decisions. It just doesn't happen. And so many people also, they have arguments when they're just wallowing together in the mud, and it's not at all effective.
Right.
If they could wait until they can just come to a place where their hearts are open and they can hear each other, the results can be very different. So it is something, it's practical, really. It's very practical, in addition to being illuminating spiritually.
And we're going to do a demonstration of a process using this from the mud to the mountaintop, as we call it, in just a minute. And that really takes us to the last point of the 5 ways to activate, is related to what we've been saying already, is keeping your spirits up and enjoying the journey.
Right. And actually, it's so interesting in society right now how people are being told that they're victims, interestingly. And many people are buying into it. And there's anger and resentment and frustration. And of course, all of those things are dragging people's vibrations down and their health. It's just so detrimental. And then on the other hand, the truth is that we are creators, and that flame is right there in the center of the chest. You can feel the thymus gland is here too, which is, the thymus gland is connected with the heart, and it is our source of aliveness. So aliveness, the life energy flows from here. It's just very obvious. So connecting with the love in your heart, keeping your spirits up, understanding the difference between victim thinking and creator thinking. Like creator thinking, anything is possible and miracles are happening now. That's creator thinking. It's another one that I have some that I tend to tell myself, something good is happening today, or something wonderful is happening today, and I'm going to find out what it is. So if you're looking for good things all day rather than, boy, life has been really hard lately, and you look around and gosh, and people on the road are trying to cut me off. this is happening and that is happening.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy. The same thing can produce very different
Mm-hmm.
results depending on how intentional you are and where your focus is. And of course, that whole idea that Philip was talking about with a set point, as you connect with love more and gratitude and peace and all of those kinds of really beautiful feelings, um, your default vibration does rise. And we also we connect with angels and beings of light who raise our vibrations even more. It can be a miraculous journey. Just being in the world, being at home can be a miraculous journey.
Right. And we don't want to dismiss or discount social injustice or people have very difficult hardships, extremes in some cases, because that exists too. But I'm just thinking we've watched sometimes cooking shows or competitions, and I'm surprised how many times the chef who's on the show said, I used to be homeless, I started off, I didn't have anything and worked their way to the point where they're in this competitive cooking show and obviously have established, often have their own restaurants and so forth. And there are many stories like that because they started from a point where they wanted to take charge of their life in some way. And that's the inner commitment where we started off here at the beginning of the webinar.
Right. And what you have a choice. It's not about pretending that everything is rosy. I think we all know that there are a lot of challenges in the world right now. But there's also that idea, don't look where you don't want to go. People think, well, I don't know if I can, I can control my car or whatever, and they drive off the road. It really is recognizing how things are and deciding, well, what do you want to do about it? And our decision years ago, that's when we actually founded Awakenings Institute, which is a nonprofit organization devoted to creating a more loving world. Our feeling is we want to focus on love. The solution is in the higher vibrations. It's not in the lower vibrations. So that's where we want to spend our time. And it is not that you don't recognize the tragedies in the world. And I think I used to be so frightened by when I would see things that were disturbing, like going to hospitals or whatever. And now I realize, well, whatever the situation is, I can send love to it. And if there's nothing else I can do that. So it's a decision.
And so that takes us to a demonstration of one of our techniques of helping activate your potential that we do in our upcoming spiritual coaching and healing program. We do these kind of things regularly that go deeper into them, but we wanted to give you a demonstration, often kind of interesting to miraculous. And one of our students, graduating students, is Margaret, who's here. And I talked to her a little bit before the class here about something to activate her potential, which she's done quite a bit. And Margaret, you want to unmute yourself? She was talking about she had the interesting challenge that now she's been through our program and still reviewing it of having actually so many people who want her talents that she's not wondering about how to manage her time. Interesting challenge there. Margaret?
Hi, how is everyone? Yeah. So, yeah, I had started working with people, and then a lot of the processes that I do, it's ongoing with the same people. And so I have a number of things that I need to do for these people. And I'm struggling with the fact that I don't feel like I have quite enough time or energy. Time with probably,
right.
The energy and the time, the two together would be probably more accurate. But yeah, and so that does tend to make me a little bit, I don't know if overwhelmed is the right word, but I'm not comfortable with the fact that I don't seem to be able to wrap myself around how to manage all of this stuff and get done what I need to get done.
It almost sounds like you're sort of off balance, put off balance.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's because it's all new, and just trying to figure out a way to be with all of this newness, get things done.
Some of it is growing pains, perhaps. So this Mud the Mountaintop, which is a very simple but powerful soul-based healing and coaching process that we use regularly, and we'll do that with Margaret, and she's experienced before, so she's been to the mountaintop. I've been to the mountaintop. I've come to, it sounds like Martin Luther King in our own way. So the
well,
mud
it's
in this.
interesting. Those metaphors, there are metaphors that are powerful, and they are
Very
real for us. And it's taking advantage actually of something energetically that works.
Right. So a lot of the external physical landscape and nature that we're so connected to, the elements that are out there are inside our bodies. They're also inside our internal world, our thoughts, our feelings, our embodiment of things. So with the mud, it would be what Margaret, for her situation of activating her full potential in that situation, about managing her time and energy with people who want her services. So she'd imagine herself being in the mud, which would be that discomfort or off balance, perhaps overwhelmed. So Margaret, do you want to just imagine yourself in that sort of as if it were in the mud, the challenge of this situation, and tell me when you're there and just what it's like for you.
Okay. Yeah, I'm there. It's not hard to get there.
Yeah, it's usually pretty easy to get in the mud because we spend more time than we want in the mud. Yeah, familiar. Okay, what's it like for you?
Well, physically, it feels like I'm sort of heavy. It's like a it's not so much muddy as much as it is like stony, heavy, kind of a little bit on the barren side.
So is it a feeling? Is there any visuals with it, or mostly a feeling?
It's gray. It's very gray for me, and geez, it's interesting. All right, so landscape's forming, and there's like no air moving. It's just really stagnant.
Stagnant, right?
Yeah, okay. And gray, gray, and like it's hard surfaces, which is interesting. Right, I was thinking about mud, but it that doesn't fit. It's like stone. Everything around me is rock or stone.
Hard.
Yeah, very hard. Yeah.
Okay. It's hard and stony. Okay, gotcha. So now we're shifting to what we say is rising to a mountaintop, or it could be a very high, lofty place. And you can sense or feel yourself, see yourself rising, just getting lighter and lighter, and just shifting to this area has this wonderful overview and sense of freedom as you rise up to the mountain. And if you've done this before, it might be very easy. If it's new to you, it might be a new experience. But for Margaret, she's experienced it and sharing with us, as all of you watching, listening, may be getting some of your own insights and experience as well. Margaret, let us know when you're there.
Then there.
You're there. And
yeah.
And what's there like today, that higher dimensional place?
I have a place that I pretty much always end up, and it's actually where it is, I'm not really sure, but I consider it sort of like a heavenly experience because I'm always up there. It's the air around me is all golden, and everybody's on clouds. So
are there, you said everybody, are there others there?
Yeah, there's always other people, and they always change. So usually, like, I'm on my own cloud, and other people will be on their own. Sometimes somebody joins me on my cloud.
Well, who's there today? If anyone.
No, there is. I'm not sure what their name is, but I believe it's An angel. No, not an angel. Some wise being.
Guide?
It's a older man coming through with like long white hair in a long white robe.
Okay.
Mm.
Yeah.
Never met him before.
And some people connect with guides and angels or other higher beings, and some it's just their soul's pure awareness too. It can be either or both. And so, with this wise being there with you, supporting you, connecting with you, um, what's the feeling like? What's the energy like for you?
It's very soothing, very comforting, supportive, loving, definitely loving.
Any messages coming forth from the guide or elsewhere?
Yeah. He just reached out and took my hand and said, "Everything will be okay, dear."
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
not usually a phrase I would associate with myself. Everything
Right.
dear.
That's usually a sign of it, of the validity of it when you're getting these things that like that's not normally what I say or see or think.
No, that's a little patriarchal for me, you know.
Yeah, but in the right way, in the higher dimensional context, it makes all the sense in the world,
Yeah.
or out of this world, beyond
Yeah.
this world. So
Mm,
okay, so you're getting that sense that everything's okay, dear. And do you
yeah.
want to formulate some resource, meaning a color, an image, or those words to send down to your more earthly self?
I think I could use the words, even though they're not typically something that I would use. There is a lot of white light emanating around him.
Okay.
So I mean, I think maybe the white light would also be something I could use to send.
So you're sending down the white light to that other part that was in the heavy landscape with the stones and the hard surfaces.
Yeah,
Okay, so it just comes down the light and knowing everything will be okay.
yeah, like the light's carrying that message down.
Yeah.
That
So you're
everything.
bringing the higher energies, grounding it into your everyday life so it becomes
Yeah.
real. So let me know
Mhm.
what's occurring back on the earthly plane where we
Yeah.
started.
So I'm receiving that light right into my chest.
Mm-hmm.
And everything around me that was gray is brightening up. And it's all becoming softer. Like things are starting to turn green.
Mm-hmm.
And what was sort of a flat landscape before is now actually getting more hilly.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of like rolling fields, sort of.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's a nice sweet breeze too. The air's not stagnant anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite nice.
Okay. Okay.
It smells. I mean, I can actually sense that it smells sweet,
Mm-hmm.
sweet air.
Great.
Mm.
So you can, if you want, you thank your guide as we're coming to a close. Anything else before we do the closure for now, Margaret, for your mud to mountaintop experience? Mud to now the rolling hills and breeze, wonderful breezes.
Well, how does it feel going back to organizing your time now?
Yeah, that's going to be the last part here. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, if this is, I'm feeling the landscape is the representation for me of how I feel about organizing my time. I don't feel like it's been a burden before, and I don't feel as much as that it's a burden right now. It's just I feel much lighter about the whole idea of not just organizing the time, but finding the time. It's making feeling good enough to have the time, because there was the energy part of it too, and I feel so much lighter right now. I don't feel heavy at all.
So part of the challenge was the emotional challenge, the disorganization, the cognitive dissonance, the kind
worry
of
about finding the time,
fraying the mind. Yeah, the worry. So the worry has changed into
possibility. Just, I feel very open and assured. I think that's a good way to put it. Assured.
Those are good words. Okay. Yeah. And if you haven't thanked your guide, you may do that. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes feeling refreshed. Know that you are assured. Anything is possible. Miracles are happening now. You're feeling good. That wonderful rolling breeze supporting you.
A very nice place to be right now.
Yeah. So
Thank
some of you watching this might be, wow, that was what happened there. So when we change on the inside, our world starts to change on the outside. It starts on the inside, as we've been describing today in different ways, that lighting the spiritual flame where we began. So in some areas, our light might be very lit with the spiritual flame, with the power, love, and wisdom. In other areas, we're not there yet, or we've hit a roadblock, or that's the next step in our journey. For Margaret, now she has a lot of people who would like to use her talents and gifts that have become awakened and developed through her training. And this is the next step. How do I deal with all this new schedules and new people and new activities? And so Margaret feels more self-assured now. And I don't know if there's anything else that's just coming in the mind about how your daily activities around this might change or are shifting.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges has been that the people in my life don't quite understand what I'm doing. And so when I prioritize my new work, they're not used to that. And so so a lot of times I'll just sort of like not prioritize my work and to keep them comfortable. And I'm kind of coming at this, well, no, it's got to be that I need to put the work first. I need to do that. It needs to, it's just too bad for them. No, I don't want to sound mean, but it's just that they've got to understand, they have to realize the importance of this to me and to the people that I'm helping, because that's the way I look at it. Yeah. It's very important for me to do that work with people, to help people, because that's really my goal. I really want to be able to be of service.
Great. So. Sounds like you're coming into heart coherence, clarity, assurance, confidence.
Yeah.
Great. That was a wonderful demonstration. That was quite inspirational for me. Thank you for doing that, Margaret.
Thank you very much.
I like the guy with the white beard on the cloud.
Yeah. Tell him thanks. Tell him that we really enjoyed his energy and that everything will be okay, dear. I would
never met that guy before.
So. I would second that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, that's an example of spiritual coaching and healing, something that we do in our upcoming course, our program starting October 10th. If you want to go deeper into this, we invite you to look at our program and join us. It's quite a transformational journey here on spiritual holistic coach healing certification. And there are quite a few benefits from it: becoming more confident and competent, getting consistent results like you were just seeing there. We do these practices in our class, and amazing things happen when, quote, you are practicing these transformational soul-based experiences and techniques. And you're going to be able to integrate this into your everyday life, as we were showing with Margaret, a good example of that, how that would change your actions because you're in the world in a different way. And you're going to have a powerful toolbox from this program of soul-based approaches that's going to help for your guidance, your purpose, your health, relationships, career. And you'll be able to apply that in your everyday life. And if you want to build a business, you can do that as well. So the program is for people from all walks of life to take it. We've offered it over 25 years now. It keeps developing with the holistic hypnotherapy, holistic EFT, NLP, spiritual kinesiology, healing from the soul, as we demonstrated today in that Mud to Mountaintop Apex process, as we call it, and others. And it's a fun program, and you get the tools and knowledge and support you want. So for the right person, it is quite transformational. And what we suggest is call us or go to our description page at tinyurl HOL coach
tinyurl.com
.com
slash
HOL coach.
hotel.
Yeah, tinyurl.com/HOL coach abbreviated website, or call us at our institute, Awakenings Institute, our nonprofit organization, 805-934-1238. And we can talk to you about the program. There are different payment plans, different ways to work things out. Because if you're guided to do so, there will probably be a way to work it out, and it will be quite transformational and fun in the process. Jane, do you want to mention anything further about the program? Or
Well, just it's always a pleasure to talk about these things. It makes me feel so excited because it is wonderful, and it is, as I mentioned earlier, wherever you are on the journey, there's always more.
you can always go deeper.
Right.
Getting the support and tools and knowledge is indispensable.
Right.
Margaret, maybe you can share how it's been for you, because I remember when we first talked, when you were considering taking the program, and then a year plus later, how things have changed so dramatically in positive ways.
Wow. Well, when I first came to the program, it was mostly for myself. I mean, I knew that I would like to be somebody that helped other people, but I needed a lot of personal healing myself. And so that's one of the things that I got from the processes and one of the things I really love about your program is the fact that you have your class on Tuesday, and then Thursday night is a practice night. And so you get to be with like-minded people, you get to practice with people. And I found that to be invaluable. I've had so many other workshops in the past, and it's like you're left on your own to do it afterwards. And during those practice sessions, I got an awful lot of work done on myself. And then it helped me to open up to things that I had been guided to do for some time, but I was not comfortable with the idea of doing it. And now I am doing it. And well, we just did a process because I'm doing it, and I'm not having, I have so many opportunities with it now that I don't know how to manage my time. So I mean, and I do believe that I would not have gotten here where I am now if I had not learned all of the things that I have been learning with you folks and the processes and just the exposure to all the different ideas, and you make things so simple to comprehend and to work into your life or into a practice. You just make it simple. So I mean, I'm very grateful for everything. So thank you.
And it's great being with people like yourself. And when you meet like-minded souls, you feel like you've come home. And it's hard to find people like the students or enrollees who take our program, and they're wonderful people. And you may develop lifelong relationships, personal and professional. And that's a big deal. So people come from all walks of life. Some are coaches and healers already. Some are business people. Some are teachers. Some are homemakers. Some people are just self-taught learners, just want to keep learning and growing and want accelerating their evolution. Some people are artists, like Jane is an artist too, are speakers. So it's just, if you're being led there, and people who watch this, who take our program, are very soul connected, that they are getting those messages and following it. And that is the key, to follow it. Because the first step is opening up to it, and the next step, which is actually a bigger, deeper step, is the commitment to follow it, to invest in yourself and your time and energy, and make it more a priority of your life. And then the magic happens, and a lot of synchronicities result. Jane, you want to add anything further?
I just suggest everybody to follow their hearts, because that's where it's at.
It's coming from your heart.
Yep.
And we're starting at this time, October 10th, Spiritual Holistic Coach Healing Certification Program. Call us. It's very reasonable for what you are receiving, different payment plans. Go to tinyurl.com/HOL coach if you're not there already. Call us directly at Awakenings Institute, 805-934-1238. We can discuss possibilities with you. And it's been great being with you, and we enjoy helping people activate and go deeper into their full potential, which is about your life purpose. You are here for a purpose. You make a difference. Great being with everyone.